Welcome once again to Chelan County Connection. I'm your host, Randy Rhodes. Today we welcome Code Enforcement Deputy for Chelan County, Zach Wenzel. Zach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Randy?
I'm really encouraged by the warmer weather and the rain coming. How does the weather impact what you guys do?
It makes an impact. Snow will change some different codes and how the community sees code violations. That's a big one in snow. So, I mean, it definitely affects what we do.
Now, are you with the sheriff's office or community development, Zach?
So we're with the Chelan County Sheriff's Office. Code enforcement went over to the sheriff's office in 2021. There's a big change to have commissioned deputies do code enforcement. Douglas County is doing it now. Grant County, I think, was the first. So the region's seeing a big change for commissioned deputies doing code enforcement.
Well, let's talk about what your job is. What does the code enforcement deputy and your department do?
Yeah, so our main function is enforce the Chelan County Code. Um, and that's a wide variety of code. We also, for the sheriff, we do civil papers. We do evictions, postings. We serve protection orders. So all the civil paperwork the code enforcement deputies do for the sheriff, as well as code enforcement.
Now, in serving papers and that kind of thing, what kind of challenges do you run up against?
So the eviction notices can be tough. I mean, it's a tough thing for the community. Protection orders, some of those people can be, a lot of people don't want to receive some of the paperwork, so it could be challenging.
And Zach, how many are on your staff?
There's 3 full-time code enforcement deputies, and that's fully staffed for Chelan County. There could be more in the future, but that's what fully staffed is right now.
Now, Deputy Wenzel, we know that issuing citations isn't your top priority for Chelan County code enforcement. Tell us about the process that you and your fellow code enforcement deputies follow. For example, if you see an infraction or something's been reported to you, what are your next steps?
Getting voluntary compliance is our number one goal. Always has been, always will be. If we get a complaint, we'll investigate the complaint, make sure it is in fact a violation of county code. We give someone a typical timeline is about 2 weeks to voluntarily comply if they're in violation. And then if that doesn't go, then the first time violation is $750 a day. A second time violation is $1,500 per day. And that's every day the violation exists.
What kind of violations are we talking about?
Our most common ones are no building permit for construction. No permit for short-term rental is a big one. And then probably the third most common is accumulation of junk vehicles, that kind of thing.
Are you seeing a decent rate of voluntary compliance now?
I believe so. I think largely the community voluntarily complies, especially with getting permits and things after it's explained, why that's needed. The community responds very well.
And it's really a pretty serious matter, building permits and things of that nature, because if people don't comply, there's fines and maybe even a lien on their property.
Yeah, so if it gets to fines, and the fines aren't being paid or ignored, the next step would be they get sent to collections. And so no one wants to be in collections. It could ruin your credit. And then if it goes even farther, there could be liens placed on the property.
Code Enforcement Deputy Zach Wenzel joining us on this edition of Chelan County Connection. Now, Zach, let's go over some of the year-end numbers for 2023. How many code violations were issued in this past year?
So cases that we opened were 120 for the year. Last year it looked like we had 78, and the year before that I believe was 78 also. So we're starting to get some production out of 3 full staff, which is recent. And then on top of that, we've served probably 1,800 civil papers for the sheriff's office last year, and I expect that to grow as well.
And how does that equate to money collected, comparing 2022 to last year?
The citation process was revamped in August of this last year. I'm not sure exactly what the county was doing before that because I wasn't here. But so it's very, very recent on how we revamped that portion of the code. So very new.
So, Deputy Wenzel, real quick, give us an example or a few of the most prevalent cases that you run into.
Yeah, the most common cases are building construction without a permit. So that's houses, walls. That's very common. Uh, Short-term rental without a permit. That's fairly new in the code as well. I believe that's 2021 when that was getting implemented. Those are common. And then junk, debris, junk vehicles also very common code violation.
And the short term rental is a hot button topic around here.
Sure.
How do we educate the public, in general, that they have to have a permit for that?
There's been a lot of outreach over our platforms. County platform has Facebook that has reached out, and this has been going on for some time. I believe most people know a permit is required in Chelan County now. It's just going through the steps and actually obtaining permits where a lot of these folks are still working through.
And is that something that your office and your department runs into quite a bit then?
Code enforcement, yes. Community development issues the permits. We get involved if there isn't one or there's some other code violation associated with short-term rental.
Now, Zach, how does the public file a complaint or get a hold of code enforcement?
So the best way is go to Chelan County's website. You'll find us under the sheriff's office, and then within there's an email to get a hold of us. There's also a complaint form in there, and we ask that that's completed, signed, and then sent to that email, and we will get it in our queue, and we'll go take a look at whatever the community's dealing with.
And we do have that website up on the screen as we speak. Any final thoughts before we move on at this point?
We're here for the community. If there's some issue that we can help you with, that's why we're here. We want people to send complaints in, and we'll look into it for you, and hopefully we can help you out.
Oh, and by the way, Zach, what's the difference really between a patrol deputy and a code enforcement deputy?
I'm glad you asked. So a patrol deputy, they mainly enforce almost solely RCWs, which is the Revised Code of Washington. It's a set of laws that penalties range from an infraction like a traffic ticket to jail or prison time. Fish and game wardens, they enforce the Washington Administrative Code, WACS, and code enforcement. We enforce the county's municipal codes, Chelan County Code. We also enforce Washington State Building Code, International Building Code, International Residential Code, lots of codes to include RCW. So we're essentially enforcing a different part of the law.
And Deputy Wenzel, before I cut you loose, a little bit about your background. Where are you from? And if you're not from here, what brought you to Chelan County?
Yeah, so I started my law enforcement career in 2015. I was in a corrections role. I transitioned to patrol, so I was a patrol deputy for about 4.5 years, and then I started code enforcement in 2021. So
And,
that's how I found myself here.
and not to interrupt you, but is this something you feel like it's a calling and you really enjoy it?
Yeah, I don't know how I fell into it. I think a little bit of it was when I was working patrol. I actually worked a little bit with our city code enforcement officer at the time, and a kind of light bulb went off, and I thought that I might want to be involved in that. So that's why I'm here.
All right. And pulling back the curtain a little bit more, how do you like to spend your free time when when you're not on duty?
Oh yeah, so I love Chelan County, so I explore Chelan County. I like to hunt and fish and spend time with my wife, going on hikes. So that's what you'll find me doing, just enjoying the county like the rest of our visitors and our residents.
And do you like the four seasons we have here?
I do. I like the 4 seasons. I like snow. I like the summers. I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, Chelan County Code Enforcement Deputy Zach Wenzel, we sure appreciate your time today and enlightening our viewers as to what code enforcement is all about and how your department helps out.
Thank you.